Hello, my wonderful friends. Welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Sarzana. I hope you are all doing very well. Today we are going to be discussing all of the books that I read last month in February. I am a bit late to the game right now. I would say that's like average for me. Typically I like to read like 10 to 11 books, but last month I have been in a slump. That's the best way to put it. I have been in a slump. Last month was kind of a struggle, but we ended the month strong. So let's go ahead and talk about all of the books I read last month. The first book I completed is Crush by Tracy Wolff. This is the second book in the Crave series. This is a YA fantasy academic book, and the characters are based in a school in Alaska. We are following the story in Grace's POV, and we get snippets of other POVs here and there, but she is our main narrator. We get a lot of different kinds of mythological beings such as gargoyles, vampires, and other shifters, and it is very cool. There is a lot of different characters that we get to meet here, a lot of side characters that are just super fun. Overall, this is a fast-paced YA series. I read the first 3 books in this series in the span of a week, and it was very easy to devour. These are pretty thick, but the way the plot is set up, it will feel like you can read this in like one sitting. There are such things as mates in this series as well, which I thought was very interesting, but they're not like set in stone. We get multiple set of mates. I'm still figuring that out. We're in book 3, so we're still figuring some things out, but the premise of the plot and the storyline is very interesting. I gave this a 4 stars because I binged this so quickly. I could read this without thinking too much and turning on my brain. So it was just a really quick, fun, easy read. And then I continued on with the series. I read Covet next. This is the 3rd book in the Crave series. And again, this was a fast, fun, easy read. However, I did not enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed Crave and Crush. This was still interesting. There were a lot of things that we discovered and got answers to, but it also left room for more questions. One thing I did not enjoy as much is the way Grace kind of handled herself. She was starting to become a little insufferable for me. I had a really difficult time with the immaturity and the juvenile behavior in this. It is interesting, but at the same time, I started to get bored. I did give this 3.5 stars. I would recommend it for anyone that's looking for like an easy, quick read, who is a fan of Zodiac Academy, but not to that extreme extent. This is very watered down version of Zodiac Academy, but it is still fast-paced and easy to read. I don't know if I'm going to continue it on. A part of me wants to, but a part of me is not putting it at the top of my list. And after this, I definitely needed a break from this series. So then I started another series, and that is the Halfling Saga by Melissa Blair. So I read the first 3 books in this series, the first one being A Broken Blade. And let's just look at the foiling in her eyes. And then I read A Shadow Crown. Next, I read A Vicious Game. I do have the 4th book in this series. I believe it's titled An Honored Vow. After reading these 2 books, I needed a break because just being in the same storyline for 3 to 4 books in, I need a change of pace. I need a different kind of palate cleanser, I guess. So I moved on to something else. We're gonna get to that in a second, but let me tell you what these 3 books are about. So basically this series is about Kira. She is an assassin. In this world, the Fae are basically slaves. Kira has had a very difficult life. She has memory gaps from her past, so she doesn't really know her origin. She just knows that she was in some kind of a prison and then she became the King's Blade. Basically, she is his right-hand assassin. She is one of the top, and then they have other positions below her. In this storyline, it is basically like many fantasy romances where we have our FMC as a slave or a lower portion, or she does not understand the extent of her powers or her identity. But as we continue reading the series, we get to understand who she is along with her, and we get to discover her powers together. The storyline is just super interesting. It is very fast paced. There is some spice in this as well. The side characters, they definitely stand out. It is a very gripping story right from the beginning. These are very bingeable books. This is a YA series, but there are some aspects of it that just makes me question why it is YA. A lot of the content in this is very mature. Overall, I really enjoyed it. It was very fast paced, it was very gripping, and the storyline, the side characters, the plot, the world building, it was all very interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to continuing on with this series. As far as ratings go, I gave A Broken Blade 4 stars. I also gave 4 stars to A Shadow Crown. I gave A Vicious Game 3 stars. The reason being, it started to feel like the plot was starting to get stretched a little bit, like it was a lot of filler information, or it just felt very repetitive. But overall, as the series in whole, I would definitely give the whole series like maybe like a 3.75 in hopes of taking a break from the Halfling saga and having a little palate cleanser. I don't know why I did it, but I did it. I continued on with my YA fantasy journey, and I probably shouldn't have done that, but at the same time, I don't know if that took effect into what happened with this next book. The next book I picked up is Legendborn by Stephanie Garber. This is a part of the Caraval series, and I really want to get to the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I heard you don't have to, but it is nice to read this series first before we go into the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, just so we have a little bit more information. But I did hear that reading the Caraval series benefits us in reading the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, just because you get like little nuggets of information, and who am I to deny any kind of information? I need to know the backstory of things in order to read a series that I might absolutely adore. This was a 1 star for me. I am very disappointed in this book. I'm so sorry if any of you liked it, but I just could not get myself to enjoy it. I liked Caraval, but Legendary, it was in Tella's point of view. Donatella is Scarlet's little sister. Scarlet we meet in Caraval. We get her POV in Caraval. But in Legendary, we get Donatella's POV and we get her love story. What I really did not enjoy was the fact that it was very repetitive from what happened in Caraval. Also, everything that happened in this book was incredibly predictable. The way this book ended, there was no suspense to it. Like, I have no desire to read finale. It does not make me want to continue on with the series. I gave this a 1 star, and I really wish I had DNF'd it. I just could not. I did not care for Donatella's POV. I did not care for her love story. I did not care for the plot. Everything was just super bland, and I kept reading this book in hopes that it would get better, but it did not. So there's that. And then the next book I picked up, it was to complete a reading vlog that I was working on, and that is the Hockey Romance reading vlog that I did collab with some YouTubers. So I will put the link up here if you want to go ahead and check it out. In that reading vlog, I did read The Pucking Wrong Number by C.R. Jane. This is a part of the Pucking series, and this is a dark hockey romance. Yes, I did not know this existed. I did not know this kind of genre existed. And when I came across this genre, I was flabbergasted. I love dark romance books and contemporary romances. You know, like when you read like the same kind of genre or the same types of books, you're kind of like blah. I was reading a lot of like college romances, and I was like, I need something different. I need something to spice things up. I need to shift a little bit here and there, and I want to discover new books. I want to discover a new genre or whatever. And I came across this book. I devoured this book in less than 24 hours. You guys, this book is not very long. This book follows Lincoln Daniels. He is a hockey player, and Monroe. Monroe has had a tough life. She became orphaned at the age of like 9 or 10, I believe. From there, things have just been harder and harder for her. She bounced around in orphanages. She bounced around from homes to homes. There were not so great men that were surrounding her, and she always felt like she had to be very cautious and careful with herself because how men reacted around her. And one day she gets a text message from someone Lincoln Daniels, and he basically texts her and he thinks that she is some other girl that his father is forcing him to have some type of a relation with for like a business deal or whatever. Lincoln obliges and he texts that girl, but he actually texts Monroe. She like sends him a picture of her face and he becomes obsessed with her. He is so obsessed with her and I absolutely love him. He stalks her and he hires like a PI to find all this information about her. He knows who she is, but she doesn't know who he is. I thought it was super well done. I didn't understand the dark romance aspect of it. It felt like a morally gray MMC, but as I kept reading it, this man is crazy. This man is crazy. There was nothing that was icky or anything like that, and it was just such a great read. I'm so happy that I picked this up. I am definitely going to be reading the rest of the series. I'm really looking forward to it. I really enjoyed Ciara Jane's writing as well. It was very immersive. I did not even feel like I was reading a book. I just was immersed into this world. It was so good. I did give this 4 stars. A lot of it was a little predictable, but at the end of the day, it was just such a good time. And these next 2 books, they are also a part of a reading vlog that is going to be coming up. So if you want to check it out, watch out for my next vlog that will be posted the following Sunday. I wanted to like really feel something, so that's what that vlog is about. I was reading books that I just wanted to feel something because I was just feeling like a little blah. I was just reading books that were like average 3 to 4 stars, and I just really wanted that soul crushing 5-star read, you know what I mean? So I picked up Saving 6 and Redeeming 6 by Chloe Walsh. You guys, I've been putting off reading this series for almost a year because I was so terrified to read these books from Joey's point of view. After what happened in Binding and Keeping 13, I was terrified to be traumatized with Joey. But I'm so happy that I gave him a chance because Joey and Aoife's story is absolute masterpiece. The amount of trauma and love that is put into these pages is absolutely amazing. I have no words for it. If you're not familiar with the Boys of Tommen series, please read it. Like, it's for everybody. It is a contemporary romance, but with a lot of depth, a lot of meaning. There's a lot of meaningful topics that are discussed in this series, but do look up the trigger warnings because it's not easy peasy. This series talks about substance abuse, physical abuse, child abuse, and so much more. Definitely go into this series by looking up those trigger warnings just for your mental health. And if you were wondering, both of these books are 5-star reads. That concludes our wrap up. It was like an emotional roller coaster for me in the month of February. Like, I read a lot of books that I absolutely loved, but I also read books that I did not like. I hope you guys had a wonderful reading month last month. I hope you discover many, many, many 5 stars this month. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.